The letter was never meant to exist. A classified file sealed for more than a decade, buried under dust and silence inside a forgotten vault at Fort Houston. No title, no ceremony. Just a single word stamped in black, faded ink across its cover, Vanguard. For years, no one dared to open it. No one even remembered it was there, until someone did, and when they did, everything changed. Before we begin, if you believe respect is earned, not given, stay with me, because this is not just a story about rank or medals. It's a story about character and the kind of courage that doesn't need an audience. Morning at Fort Houston came with a sharp, metallic chill. Frost clung to the flagpoles. Boots struck the courtyard in rhythm. The air itself seemed to stand at attention. This was where future officers of the Corps were forged, not through kindness, not through comfort, but through the grind of expectation and the weight of perfection. And yet, standing at the far edge of the formation was someone who didn't quite belong. Captain Elise Ward, late 20s, silent, composed, a recent transfer from the medical division, a medic trying to earn her place in command school. Her uniform was flawless, her salute exact, her boots polished until they reflected the gray sky above. But perfection doesn't hide judgment, and every step she took echoed with whispers. Why's she even here? Someone murmured. She's not command material. Probably begged her way in. Elise said nothing. She just stood, eyes forward, back straight, the kind of silence that doesn't surrender but endures. Then came Lieutenant Drew Kellen, the golden boy of the program, all confidence and charm, the kind of man who never doubted his own reflection. He stopped in front of her, voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "So this is the transfer," he said. Elise didn't look at him. "Captain Ward," she corrected evenly. Kellen smirked. "Not here, you're not. Here, you're just another cadet trying not to fall behind." Laughter rippled through the group like sparks in dry grass, but Elise didn't flinch, didn't blink, because she'd learned long ago the ones who talk the loudest are usually the ones who have never been tested. By evening, the jokes had evolved into stories. In the locker room, Kellen leaned against the bench, retelling their little moment like he was recounting a battle he'd already won. "She actually corrected me," he laughed, "Captain Ward. Like she's earned it." The others joined in cheap laughter bouncing off cold tile and steel, but not everyone laughed. Corporal Nina Ross, sharp-eyed and quiet, sat at the far end of the room. She watched as Elise unlaced her boots, each movement calm, deliberate. When Elise folded her uniform into the locker, a small patch slipped free and fell to the floor. Nina bent down and picked it up. A patch worn and faded, its edges frayed from time. 3 words stitched in black, Shadow Vanguard Unit. For a moment, Nina froze. The name sounded like something she'd heard before, whispered in late-night briefings, hidden behind redacted files and rumors. She handed it back quietly. Elise took it without a word, locked her locker, and walked away. No explanation, no defense, just that same steady silence. And that silence said more than any rank ever could. 2 weeks passed. The jokes continued, sharper now, like they were testing her limits, but Elise never broke. Then one cold morning, during field drills, Kellen shouted across the training yard, "Careful out there, Ward. Wouldn't want you bruising those medic hands." The laughter returned, but this time it didn't last long, because Elise wasn't looking at him. She was staring past him at the tree line, at something no one else noticed. That night, long after the others were asleep, Elise walked the perimeter alone. Her boots crunched against gravel as she stopped by a corner security post. The camera there had flickered earlier, exactly 1.6 seconds of static. Almost no one would have noticed, but she did. She took out a small leather notebook, flipped to a page filled with coordinates, timestamps, and strange, precise notes, and wrote down a new entry. Then she looked up at the dark woods beyond the fence and whispered, "Someone's watching." Hours later, in the strategy hall, cadets gathered for briefing. The lights dimmed, the projector flickered, then froze. A sharp tone rang through the speakers. On the main screen appeared a message no one had ever seen before. "Restricted access. Authorization code, Shadow 1. The instructor frowned, tried to override it, but the system refused. Then across the room, Elise's tablet vibrated. One message, no sender, no subject, just 4 words glowing in pale blue: "Vanguard, stand by." When the lights came back on, the bass didn't feel the same. Something electric hung in the air like the calm before a storm. Morning came, heavy with gray clouds. Inside the strategy hall, Kellen leaned casually against the podium, trying to reclaim his stage. "Guess the medic's hacking systems now," he said, half laughing. But no one joined him, even the air felt cautious. Then it happened. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, echoed through the corridor. The double doors opened and the room fell silent. Colonel Nathan Hale stepped inside. Late 40s, broad shoulders. a uniform lined with ribbons that told stories no one dared ask about. But it wasn't the medals that silenced the room, it was the gravity in his eyes. He looked around once, then stopped. "Captain Elise Ward," he said, "front and center." Elise stood calm, precise, and walked to the front. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then the corner of Hale's mouth lifted. "Good to see you again, Vanguard." The room went dead still. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Vanguard, what's he talking about?" "Elise Ward from that Vanguard." Hale turned to the room. 7 years ago, he began, a covert rescue at Black Ridge went south. 12 Marines trapped behind enemy lines. 3 extraction teams failed. Command declared them lost. But one operator, call sign Vanguard, led a 4-person team back in. No air support, no backup, no chance. He paused, looked directly at Elise. 47 minutes later, all 12 Marines were walking again. A breathless silence filled the hall. "She didn't earn that name," Hale said softly. "She built it, and she saved my life." Gasps broke out. Nina Ross's eyes widened, a hand rising to her mouth. Even Kellen's smirk vanished. For the first time, his arrogance gave way to something he'd never felt before: humility. Hale's tone dropped lower. "You mocked her," he said, eyes locked on Kellen. "You called her weak." I didn't know," Kellen stammered. "That's the point," Hale said. "You didn't ask." Then he faced the room. "From this moment on, you will address her by her proper designation, Captain Elise Ward, Shadow Vanguard Unit. And if any of you believe leadership is about rank," he let the silence hang, "then you're not ready to lead." And in that silence, one cadet stood, saluting, then another and another, until the entire hall rose as one, hundreds of salutes snapping in perfect rhythm. For the first time, Elise Ward wasn't an outsider. She was the standard. When the hall emptied, Hale stayed behind. He stood beside Elise, his voice softer now, laced with something like pride or maybe warning. "They know now," he said, "but this isn't about them." Elise tilted her head slightly. "Then who's it about?" Hale's jaw tightened. "Someone's watching this base," he said. "Someone who shouldn't be." Elise's gaze shifted toward the darkened windows. The rain outside began to fall, slow, steady. She took a breath. "Then it begins again." That night, Fort Halston was soaked in thunder and static. Rain drummed against the roofs, washing the dirt from concrete, but not the tension from the air. Inside the barracks, Elise sat alone on her bunk. Her encrypted tablet pulsed once, a faint blue light on the screen. The same 4 words appeared again. "Vanguard, stand by." Before she could react, the base alarms screamed to life. Red lights flashed, sirens tore through the storm. "Breach detected, west perimeter." Cadets scrambled into gear. Orders shouted. The chaos of half-trained soldiers trying to make sense of real danger. In the command room, Colonel Hale barked instructions. "Lock down Alpha. Seal the gates, secure the armory." But then a young officer's voice broke through, trembling. "Sir, they're not coming from outside." Hale froze. "Say again." "Internal motion sensors. The breach is inside the base." The air went cold. Every head turned. Hale's eyes found Elise instantly. "South wing, take Ross, move." Within seconds, Elise and Nina were running, boots pounding on the slick floor, flashlights cutting through darkness. The hallway smelled like oil and rain. Emergency lights flickered overhead. Then Elise saw it, a vent panel freshly disturbed. "They've been here," she whispered. A faint sound echoed from behind, a scuff of a boot. Elise spun. "Step out." A shadow emerged, black fatigues, masked face, carrying gear too sophisticated for any trainee. He lunged. Shots rang out. Nina fired, the intruder dodged, bolting down the corridor. Elise chased. Her breath steady, her pace unbroken. The chase wound through endless hallways until he slipped into the lower maintenance wing. When she reached the end of the corridor, he was gone. But in his place, a small blinking device attached to the main security relay. Elise ripped it off the wall, turned it over in her hand. "Not foreign," she said. "Not stolen." Her eyes narrowed. "U.S. military issue." By dawn, the alarms quieted. The infiltrators had vanished, no bodies, no theft, no messages, just a single question that no one could answer. Hale looked at the device on the operations table, his reflection ghosting in the steel. "This wasn't an attack," Elise said. "They were testing us." Hale nodded slowly, the weight of old battles flickering behind his eyes. "Or reminding us," he murmured, "that war never really ends." Kellen stepped forward from the group, voice soft, remorseful. I didn't know," he said again. Elise looked at him, not angry, not smug, just tired. "Now you do," her eyes said. By sunrise, the storm had broken. Mist hung low across the training fields. The flag rose again, heavy with rain. Elise stood alone beneath the awning, hands in her pockets, eyes fixed on the horizon. Behind her, the cadets gathered silently. They didn't speak, didn't laugh, just watched. For the first time, they saw her not as a medic, not as a transfer, but as what she truly was, a leader forged in silence, tempered by fire, and reborn under judgment. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was low, almost lost to the wind. They thought they buried that name, she said. But legends don't stay buried. She looked back at the base, at the walls that had tried to contain her. Because leadership isn't about shouting the loudest, she whispered. It's about standing tallest when no one believes in you. As the sun broke through the clouds, her reflection shimmered in the puddles at her feet, one soldier, standing where the world once doubted her. The tablet in her hand buzzed softly. Another message, no sender, no subject, just two words this time. Welcome back. The camera pulled back, wide, cinematic. The mist swallowed the horizon. The rain stopped. And the legend of Shadow Vanguard began again. They say strength is built in storms, not sunlight. That respect is not given, it's earned through every failure, every doubt, every silence you refuse to break. Captain Elise Ward didn't come to prove she belonged. She came to remind the world that sometimes the quietest warrior carries the loudest legacy.